Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Path of Exile 2 video, I'm going to talk to you about the Ascendancy classes for the Ranger. You can choose between the Deadeye or the Pathfinder. Now, when you very first start out as a Ranger, once you get far enough into the game, you can complete trials to then ascend your class and choose one of these two options. I want to go ahead and just kind of talk about what nodes are available and what the two Ascendancies have to offer. Went ahead and jumped into the forum post here. We have a bunch of different ascendancies. There's going to be 12 ascendancy classes available at the start of early access. With the Ranger, we have the Deadeye. That's where we're going to start first. These classes are not, or ascendancy classes, in my opinion, are not super complex just in terms of these nodes, but trust me, there will be complexity with everything else that ties into building your character. The very first node we have here is Avidity. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. This is based around your frenzy charges. You can gain frenzy charges through different ways, and they make your skills better, basically. The very first node here, though, is going to give you that 30% chance that if you would gain a frenzy charge, instead you will get your maximum number of frenzy charges. This is actually really awesome. This is just going to help jumpstart and kick up that buff even quicker. The next thing we have here with frenzy charges is Thrilling Chase. Benefits from consuming frenzy charges for your skills have a 50% chance to be doubled. This sounds really awesome with those frenzy charges in the different buffs. And again, at the time of recording, I have not played Path of Exile 2, so this is speculation. And a lot of this will change when we get into the game and we actually get our hands on all the different skill gems, 100 skill gems, support gems. So it's really going to be interesting to see how all these play into everything that the game does have to offer. You can also get Eagle Eyes. That's going to give you no accuracy penalty at a distance. Now, accuracy is literally if you can hit or not. So if you don't have enough accuracy, your skills will miss. Now, this will take away the penalty, if you're far away, basically, and you're playing a Ranger, so you probably will be. We can decide here if you want to be kind of more of a close quarters Ranger or kind of a long distance sniper, or whatever you want to call it here. And you have two different choices here. You have Point Blank. And what Point Blank does is when an enemy moves, if you hit it within the first 3.5 meters of their movement, you will deal 20% damage. Now, this bonus is going to be reduced based on how far that monster moves, up to 7 meters, and then you'll get no bonus at that point. Now, the flip side of that, you can have where the more they've moved after 7 meters, you deal 20% damage here with the Far Shot. And in my opinion, it sounds like Far Shot would probably be a little bit easier to use just because it's not like you got to get right up in their grill and pop them before they move type deal. But that's just kind of my opinion there. Next up, we have Endless Munitions, which is going to give you an additional projectile. We're probably going to have the Greater Projectile Support Gem, which will also give us more projectiles as well. So just that extra one in there is going to be awesome, I think. Over here on Called Shots, you can apply an additional mark. This will be awesome. I don't know what all the marks are, what they all do, but I would assume applying an additional one is definitely a good thing. Now, we have these last two here, and these two kind of are going to go hand in hand. We'll zoom in a little bit here, so hopefully you can read all these, but Gathering Winds here is going to give you Tailwind whenever you use a skill. Now, you're going to lose the Tailwind buff whenever you get hit. Tailwind is a buff, and it's going to give you 1% movement speed and 3% increased skill speed and 15% increased evasion rating for 10 seconds. And this can stack up to 10 times. That's pretty awesome. That's 10% increased movement speed, 30% increased skill speed, and 150% increased evasion rating. Pretty good. But when you get hit, you lose all of those buffs. You can also take Tailwind a step further here, and you can get up to a 30% damage reduction, or basically 30% less damage taken at maximum 10 stacks, because it's 3% less damage taken per Tailwind stack. But again, when you get hit, you would lose all those buffs. So if you have fast attack speed, you can get those 10 stacks really quick. I could see that being pretty good. But when I first read about this, the whole frenzy charge setup thing that we talked about was kind of what I thought would kind of be my go-to. And that Tailwind buff would be pretty nice as well. That is the Deadeye Ascendancy. Let's go ahead and talk about the Pathfinder. This one's going to be based around throwing flasks and doing different things. And it actually is going to be using your mana flask. And there's also mechanics here with your life flask as well. Let's go ahead and break it down here. This was one that I was pretty excited for with the whole poison portion of it. But after reading this, there's quite a few options here, at least at a first glance. The very first note you can get here is connected chemistry. This is going to give you 50% more flask charges gained. So you can refill your flasks faster, which is going to be useful when we get down here to the brew concoctions. Next up, you can get enduring elixirs. Basically, your life flasks are not removed when you heal or fill up your unreserved life. I'm assuming this will be nice just so you can essentially have more flasks, I guess. We have contagious contamination. This is really kind of the one that I was most excited for. And kind of was thinking about maybe doing a Pathfinder build just because of this node right here. Honestly, what it is your most damaging poison that you have on an enemy. When you kill it, it'll spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. Pretty cool to be able to spread around that poison. Now, you're going to see some synergies here when we get down to the concoctions as well. But before that, though, we have our overwhelming toxicity. This is going to double the number of poisons that you can inflict on an enemy, but it reduces that poison duration by 35%. I still think that you definitely want that so you can get even more poisons. And then you're killing, so you're spreading those poisons. And then if you go down here into your concoctions, you can actually have it, if you use your flask through this poisonous concoction here, the poison from that will have more effect. And basically, it's all going to synergize up with these other two nodes. But it's not just poison concoctions. You can also get your 3 elementals, your lightning, your cold, and your fire. They're going to do that certain elemental type, and they're also going to inflict exposure of that elemental type, which I believe will make it so that monster takes more damage from that specific elemental type. So this could be good. Like, let's say you're doing a fire build and you inflict fire exposure with your flask, and then you go ahead and use your big heavy hitting fire ability. You could benefit from the exposure and that debuff in that way. And last but not least, they have a bleeding concoction as well. And this is very similar to the poison one, where it's going to do physical damage in the area, and then the bleeding is also going to have more effect. But I really like the flask thing, and it's going to be interesting to see like how big the AoE is, how big can we make these AoEs, things like that. But I really think the poisonous setup sounds really fun. Last but not least here, and this one's actually really good, Traveler's Wisdom here just straight up gives you 5 passive skill points. The passive skill tree is massive, so 5 extra points to spend in there would definitely be really good. You can also get Relentless Pursuit here. That's going to make it so that when you're slowed, your speed is not affected, so you can keep up that mobility. And then same kind of thing over here with Running Assault. Less movement speed penalty when you use skills while moving. Now remember, Path of Exile 2 is you can do click to move, you can do WASD, or you can do your controller kind of like a, using your movement stick. Now this is going to be really awesome because when you're actually moving with your skills, you can actually keep your speed going as well a little bit. So I don't know. I think this game's going to be really interesting with the combat changes. At the end of the day, the Ranger, be honest with you, was not at the top of my list, but after looking at that Pathfinder and the whole poison setup, I love damage over time builds, and I think the Pathfinder might be one that I'll try. There's other Ascendancies that I think look a little bit more appealing, but that is your Ranger, and that's the Deadeye and Pathfinder Ascendancies. And that's going to wrap it up for this Path of Exile 2. The Ranger Ascendancy Early Access Preview video. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today and unlock some awesome perks such as behind the scenes, bloopers that I find while editing, and early access to videos when I publish a whole big batch. And it also helps out the family a lot. But don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.